these. And so welcome again to tonight's Back Porch Chat. I'm going to share my screen with you and hopefully you'll be able to see it. And here we go. So tonight's our focus is going to be on the protective factor, children's social emotional competence. And as you all know from our previous conversation, and Courtney I know knows this because she and I were in a training earlier together today, that this is the one protective factor that focuses on the children in the home rather than on the adults. So I want to share a little bit with you guys about the work that we're doing at One Place and the problems that we're trying to solve. And those three problems are child abuse, mental health treatment, and finding resources. We all know that child abuse is a complex problem that has long-lasting and harmful effects and happens more often than we can imagine. And our goal is that we will hope to move forward in getting people to recognize that child abuse is not someone else's problem, it's our problem. It belongs to everybody in the community. And in terms of mental health, we're hoping to bring light to the fact that without treatment, children who suffer from adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, may have challenges forming healthy relationships, regulating emotions, and living a physically healthy life. And then also the third problem we're trying to address is helping families to find resources, because what we know is that we have families who move in and out of our community all the time, and families don't always know where to go for help and resources that they need. As families move into the community, it can be difficult to know what the community has to offer or where to access those things. So that can be a real challenge for families. So our approaches are centered around the programming that we offer at One Place. And you see what some of you now have learned to love, because I send it out every week after we talk, and that's our 10 facts flyer that talks about our programming. So I'm going to just touch on those just for a little bit. We have our CCR&R, or Child Care Resource and Referral Program, which is a hub of information for families and children, and allows parents and families to contact our offices and get information about what high quality early education experiences look like and how we can find those. And hopefully we can get them connected with that resource as well as other resources that are available in the community. We also know that paying for childcare is an issue for families. And as I shared previously, Childcare Aware released some data that showed us that the cost of having one infant in childcare in Onslow County is equivalent to 11.2% of the median income in our county. So we know that's an issue, and we try to connect families with the Child Care Subsidy Program to offset that. We have our Early Head Start programming, which offers experiences for children in a home visitation-based setting, as well as a child care partnership setting. We have our Triple P Positive Parenting program, and I know some of you have taken that online. And it's really a program that's designed to be interventive and preventative in helping with children's behaviors and taking some of the guesswork out of parenting. We have our 3-school programming, which offers a 6.5-hour high quality preschool early childhood experience for children who turn 3 by August 31st. And we have the counterpart to that, which is NC Pre-K, that offers that same 6.5-hour high quality early ed experience to children who turn 4 by August 31st. We have our literacy programming, which includes story walks at the park and little free libraries, and Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, which is that book gifting program that is free to all families who live in Onslow County for children who are birth to 5 years old. And all of the kids who sign up will get books until their 5th birthday every month at no cost to the family. We also know that brains are built, they're not born. And so we have our training and technical assistance program here at One Place, and that is designed to help support the early education community in providing those early, high quality early childhood experiences. We also have our Child Advocacy Center, and that is a place that is bringing, we hope that it's bringing hope and healing to families and children who have suffered abuse. And so the goal being that children will be able to tell their story one time rather than having to be re-traumatized by telling it multiple times. And then, of course, our commitment of investing in the children in our community is around our ideas of philanthropy to ensure that the work that we're doing goes on past all the careers of the people that currently work at one place. And so again, I will send that to you all as I have in weeks past. So tonight we're going to be together for about an hour, but as you know, I'm willing to stay on. And Blake, I know you have a commitment at your church that's right at 7 o'clock, so you may have to drop off early, but we're going to talk about the 5 protective factors, particularly the social emotional competence of children. We've got a couple of videos. Actually, all of our activities this week are centered around videos, but the first one is going to be a video from our friends at Prevent Child Abuse North Carolina, which I'll share with you in just a second. So kind of reintroducing the 5 protective factors to the group. We've talked about knowledge of parenting and child development because we know that children thrive when parents provide not only affection, but also respectful communication, listening, and consistent rules and expectations, along with those safe opportunities that promote resilience. Parental resilience is about parents being able to cope with the stresses of everyday life, as well as the occasional crisis, and having the resilience or that ability to bounce back. And when that's in place, they can be flexible and have inner strength, and that reduces the likelihood of abuse and neglect happening in their home. The same thing is true for concrete supports, that when families can meet their own basic needs for food and clothing and housing and transportation, and also have the ability to know how to access essential services such as childcare, healthcare, and mental health services to address some more family-specific needs, then they're better able to ensure the safety and well-being of their own children. Also, we're looking at social connections, which is one of the 5 protective factors. When parents have a social network of emotionally supportive friends, families, and neighbors, they often find it easier to care for themselves as well as to care for their children. And so tonight we're going to look at social emotional competence. We know that children's early experiences of being nurtured and developing a positive relationship with adults affects all aspects of behavior and development. We also know that it only takes one safe, stable, nurturing adult to make the difference in a child. And we know that adverse childhood experiences are preventable. So we're going to take a look at that video from our friends at Prevent Child Abuse. And it's going to focus on social emotional competence for children. All right, so Glenda, I will ask you to be my thumbs up person on sound today, okay?
So this week we're highlighting the only protective factor that actually centers around children and has to do with children. All of the other protective factors are based on adults and what adults can do to help prevent child abuse and neglect. This one actually is what children can do and how we can help our children, and that is social and emotional competence of children. So social and emotional competence is the ability to interact well with others, to regulate your own emotions and behavior, to solve problems and communicate effectively. And we know that the children's early experience of a nurturing, caring adult really affects all aspects of behavior and development that comes to follow. So a child's relationship, really with a caring adult helps with their academic years later in life. It gets better grades. They have healthier behaviors, more positive peer interactions, and they have an increased ability to cope with stress, which, as you all know, is super important during time, and we want to give our children the tools and resources they need to build their social and emotional competence, especially now. So children who are socially skilled are more likely to advocate for themselves. They're more likely to ask another adult for help when they need it. They're better able to express their needs, their feelings, their interests, and appropriately and clearly connect with other adults and children. So we also know that when children are able to clearly express their needs and wishes, parents are better able to understand how to meet their children's needs. And adults who have an easier time caring for their children, who are able to listen and follow directions, follow the routine that is set before them in their program. They're better able to solve problems and ask for help than engaging in, challenging or problem behavior instead. So social and emotional competence also leads to more positive adult and child relationships. When adults start to see each interaction as an opportunity to build a positive relationship, you're more likely to view your children positively. And when you view your children positively, you're more likely to see that all of their behavior is them communicating. It's not necessarily just them throwing a tantrum, and you're better able to see why they might be throwing a tantrum or why they might be, tattling on their sibling. It's them seeking your help or them seeking your support.
All right, so now it's your all's turn. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and ask you to unmute, and let's just talk about it as a group. I know that video particularly is one of the hardest ones to hear, so I'm hoping that everybody was able to hear it pretty well. So our follow-up question today, of course, just keeping in mind that this is our only protective factor that is aimed at children, I'm going to just ask you to unmute and share your thoughts about what social emotional competence might look like in your children or the children that you work with or serve.
I know, at least for me in this kind of situation, when I'm coaching U10 baseball, I actually just started on Monday, realizing those kind of relationships, like how different things, what we can do as parents is provide those relationships, obviously more steering towards those good and positive relationships, like with either daycare individuals, babysitters, teachers, us doing the proper thing of vetting what constitutes a good relationship. I feel like that's kind of crucial. Really understanding, like, one of the things when I was coaching is that this was day one, and some of these kids were already glued to me, so I want to make sure that I respected them by showing, like, hey, yes, there's 5 people talking at once. I got to make sure I was talking to them individually, because I know for myself, when I was young, going through some of these things, some of the stressful events, and sometimes you just don't want to talk to mom and dad. Maybe it's that coach, maybe it's that really awesome teacher, maybe it's that really awesome individual. Those relationships will carry you through the whole thing. My high school biology teacher, she became my AP biology teacher. I still love this woman today. She's by far one of the best individuals I've ever had, Judy Hardwood. And it was one of the things that she was one of the only people that was encouraging me, like, hey, yeah, no, Blake, I think the Marines is going to be hard, but I know you can do it. The only person that was, like, positive about what I was doing, and this was when I was out of high school, I was out of college. I was not in the realm, but the relationship that is very positive, and having those is crucial, because just like how I was saying a couple weeks ago, it takes a village, and that village doesn't mean, like, hey, just between the parents. It's also for the kids. The kids need to be able to reach out to other not necessarily spectators, but people that are not maybe right there. Like for me, sometimes it's really good for me to talk to someone that's not in uniform, because all I do is deal with people that are in uniform all day. And sometimes it's very like, hey, Marine, scream, yell, and stuff like that. So it's good to step away, and I can have a conversation with maybe someone that's not in a uniform. Like
Well, thank you, Blake. I appreciate you sharing that. And you absolutely hit on one of our biggest messages with our Back Porch Chats and around the 5 protective factors, and that is that it only takes that one safe, stable, caring adult to make a huge difference. I want to share with you guys that the National Alliance for Children's Trust and Prevention Funds, which is where we got the work around the 5 protective factors, has said that children's social and emotional competence is seen as their ability to communicate clearly, to recognize and regulate their emotions, establish and maintain relationships with others, and engage in problem solving and conflict resolution. Glenda, I saw that you had unmuted. What would you like to add?
So both of my kids are adopted, and Ivy, who's been on these calls, she's my oldest, but then I have a son who is 19, and Judd came, we got him when he was 8 months old, and Ivy came straight from the hospital. And so watching the difference between, when she was, a newborn, and Judd, who was 8 months old, and the struggles that he has had because he didn't have all of that, the nurturing and the building of the trust with an adult and all that comes along with, many infants when they, are born into a family, and there's, people there ready to take care of them. And it's his whole life, it's been a struggle for him, with dealing with, when his emotions, or when he's hurt, when he's angry, and a lot of people think, well, 8 months old, he was still a baby, and he was, but 8 months for a child who has already struggled is old, when you're looking at their emotional and well-being and where they've been taken, how they've been taken care of. And it really hits home, when I'm working with families now, looking at, because a lot of families I work with have adopted children, and you start digging in and finding out, what was going on with them when they were infants. And you see all, that is coming out, and the research now is even more and more, supporting the needs of children for them when they're little. And it definitely carries out when they get older.
It absolutely does. And Glenda, you make such a strong point too, that, those first 8 months, wow, how much wiring is supposed to be happening in an infant's brain. And if they're not getting that nurturing, attached, and appropriate examples of social emotional competence, what a huge impact that has. Kim or Courtney, do you want to add anything?
The only thing I was going to add too is I think it's really important for children, for us to model. Like, I really like what Blake and Glenda both were saying about kind of those positive experiences, but I think we can forget sometimes that even though they're itty bitty, they are watching us, and how we handle a problem and how we deal with things really impacts them. So being mindful too of what we do, and making sure our reactions aren't over the top, I think are really important.
Absolutely.
I would just to piggyback off what you said, Kimberly, is just that modeling is so important. And I think from what Glenda was saying, how children born into those supportive and nurturing environments can have an effect on them. I think too, it's important to know that every child has a different, temperament, and they kind of deal with things differently. So I just know from my own children, I have one super easygoing and child, and then I have one who's a little bit more lives life with a passion. So it's been different, in the interactions and the support that I provide to each of them, just to tailor it to what they need. And a lot of what we're doing now is just that modeling, and acknowledging those feelings and giving them the strategies, age appropriate strategies to, manage their feelings and problem solve through their problems. And I think with my role with the agency, I help teachers to do those things for the children in their classroom, because, the pre-K program serves a lot of children who might have some higher ACE scores, and whose families might need that extra bit of support. So I think, in my personal life, I get a lot of practice, but I think working with the teachers, it's really rewarding to, be able to connect them with the resources to then give to the children and families.
That's awesome. Thank you, Courtney. And I guess I didn't say at the beginning that Courtney is one of our training and technical assistance specialists with the NC Pre-K program, as she just so eloquently shared. And so she does do a lot of work in the community, and she really is a godsend to Onslow County. So we're glad you're here, Courtney. All right, we are going to look at defining social emotional competence. Oops, I think I skipped the video here. Whoop. All right, Courtney may actually have to help me here because now I'm having.
What do we got?
I'm not sure what happened there. But all of this. Here we go. I don't know why that happened. So 0 to 3 defines social emotional competence as the developing capacity to experience and regulate emotions, to form secure relationships, and explore and learn, all in the context of the child's family, community, and cultural background. And what we know to be true is that a child's parents are their first and most important teachers. So I want to watch a video that kind of touches on that and touches a little bit on what we've all been talking about here this evening about brain development and the importance of these things happening when children are young. So we're going to, some of you may have seen this, we're going to take a peek at the still face experiment. And Glenda, I'll ask you again to give me a thumbs up on sound.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby who's about a year of age.
I love my girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this. And then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, come on, why aren't we doing this? Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it. They actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay. I'm here. And what are you doing? Oh, yes. Oh, what a big girl.
It's a little like the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that normal baby start to play again. The ugly is when you don't give the child any chance to get back to the good. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation.
This foundation covers everything.
All right, so I'm sure you all feel like I do when I watch that video, no matter how many times I watch it. It's heart-wrenching when the mom is doing the still face and you see the child's reaction. But I mean, just let's talk about how you felt, how you think the mom felt, and how you think the baby felt.
I feel like the ignoring or not necessarily ignoring, just that still face, how it felt like. One, it's just hard. You just want to be there. You just want to kind of swoop in and try to see what you can do, just kind of help out the situation. As the the mom, the mom's just, they're going to feel kind of like upset and they want to do something. And obviously the baby thinks that, hey, they're going to get this one reaction. They're not going to get it. They're going to get something else. And that's not what they want. They're not going to like it. Part about this whole thing is the emotions. How do you play with the emotions to make sure it's the right way? What ones do you give into? What ones do you not give into? And what pattern does that create later on down the road? If you accepting of them bad behavior and things like that, that's just going to produce more bad behavior, because that's attention that you're going to help them out with. Now they know, like, oh, I got to be bad in order for me to feel good. And that those feelings, emotions are really, really strong in the development of those kids. That was one of the things from the Triple P thing. Like, one thing I know I don't do as much as I should is praise them when kids are doing good. Like, hey, my little ones are playing together and they're not having issues. Well, I mean, now that's when I want to say, hey, good job. Not when they're fighting and that's the only attention that they get. You want to be able to praise them for good things and not just show emotions on just the bad things. Well, if that makes sense.
Oh, it absolutely makes sense. And I think the strong message there is that we need to have some focus on positive reinforcement for the behaviors that we want to see, because what you pay attention to is what you're going to get more of. And we know that research shows us that nurturing and bonding between an adult parent and a child, really from the earliest possible seconds, result in children who are more socially and emotionally competent later as adults. And Glenda, that kind of leans into what you had said before. What would you add to that?
Well, one of the things that I did a lot with my kids when they were little, just to interact with them. And, like, I think Blake's got a good point. Sometimes you're trying to figure out, like, am I feeding into what they really need right now? Or are they just mad at me because they didn't get a cookie or, whatever? Was they just, I got to talk to my kids. That's what my pediatrician told me. He said, talk to your kids, have conversations with your kids. And because you can do a lot of that when you're doing other things. So, like, we're riding in an elevator and we would talk about, because I remember, people would look at me like, he does not know what floor you're going to get off on and what's on that floor. But he was getting attention, and I was trying to teach him and learn, and also learn some of the social things that go on in the world around him when he was little. And I did the same thing with his sister. So I felt like that was a good positive way for them to get attention and teach them, and also to learn some of the social things, again, that go on around them, that they need to start learning and understanding that you can't always get what you want every minute. And how to look and pick up cues, because again, when you have a child who has struggled with attention when they're young, they often miss the social cues, which in the long run can hurt them socially. So trying to figure that balance out, I found just carrying on a lot of conversations with my kids is what worked the best for them.
I think that's great, Glenda, because I think it clearly kind of articulates the idea that your interactions with children matter. They are paying attention, they are listening, they're watching your face, they're listening to the tone of your voice and the volume of your voice and all of those things. And you talked a little bit about something that I think is interesting, and that's, I taught kindergarten for several years, and people would often ask me, and I'll be interested to see what Courtney's reaction and thought is on this. They would ask me, what does my child need to be ready for your kindergarten classroom? And my response was simply that they need to be able to delay their own needs to meet the needs of the group for a couple of minutes. And people would always say, but what about spelling and what about math? And I would say, nope, they need to be able to delay their own needs for a couple of minutes to meet the needs of the group. And that was always a surprise to people. And so, Courtney, I'd be interested to get your thoughts, and Kimberly and Blake as well.
So when so I knew that to be true with, with just my work and just from working in early childhood since I was in high school. But when I registered my oldest daughter for kindergarten, I asked the teachers that question. I was interested to hear what they would say. And I said, what are some of the things that you would like for my child to be able to do when she comes into your classroom? And they just said, being able to delay their needs, when somebody else is being helped, or to pay attention to something, be able to sit, and all those social emotional things that that the program that I work with, the teachers I work with are really big on. One of our big focuses is that social emotional, but um, I too always like to try to tell them that yes, those things are very important, but that doesn't mean you can't teach them all the other things there is
Yes.
about life, and and all those other academic things, because those things are important. But if a child can't go into an elementary school classroom and sit there and listen to a lesson and take that information in, what they know is they're not going to be able to show that teacher. So I think that I love that you brought that up, Joe, because and I still love the fact that you taught kindergarten. I wish that I had a kindergarten class, but anyway, yeah, I think it's important to really focus it, because if they have those social emotional skills, all the other skills will come. The academics will come. They'll pick up on it. I think we're seeing that now more than ever with the past few years in education. I mean, just the children who are in second grade now, like my daughter, have not had a full school year yet. In kindergarten, there was Florence. First grade was cut short with COVID. And then this year was kind of cut short in a way with COVID. So there's that whole, generation of kids who have had limited or limits put on their academics. And those teachers have really had to focus more on help supporting their social emotional needs.
Thank you, Courtney. And Ivy, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Hey, thank you. Sorry I was late. I'm heading back to the office now for work, but I'll listen in.
Well, I appreciate that, Ivy. And so we're talking about the social emotional competence of children and what children actually need to have in place to be ready for kindergarten. And really that the focus of that is around social emotional skills. Kimberly, did you want to add something?
The only thing I would add is I kind of echo what Courtney said. I taught preschool for a long time. And when we did the parent teacher conferences, parents would always come and they were much more concerned about if their child could write their name, if their child could say the ABCs. And it took a lot of convincing to get them on board with, there are things that matter just as much, if not more. And so we kind of termed it as it's really important that your child can be a good friend. And then we put it the categories of so that they can let others go first, so they learn to share. But I wonder too, at least I taught when I was in Raleigh, I think they would hear so much from the school systems about end of year testing and, children are reading are expected to read in kindergarten. So I think they felt all this pressure on them and sometimes forgot the piece, or it was really hard to just let a kid be a kid, if that makes sense. So I feel like parents have so much pressure even before they get to school on them to produce this child that can read and all these things. So I think it's really tough, but important that we help parents understand how important it is.
I agree. And thank you for sharing that, Kimberly, because I think in addition to just the pressure of being a parent, and if you have more than one child, being a parent that's appropriate for each of the personalities that you're trying to raise, then you get those outside pressures that sort of sometimes feel like judgments and from other people and from agencies like school districts that are either sometimes intended and sometimes unintended. But I think one of the skills that it's important for us all to think about and be able to share with people that we care about is around building emotional vocabulary. We touched on this a little bit earlier in this conversation. Behavior is a form of communication in children and adults, but we're going to focus on children. Behavior is a form of communication. They're trying to tell you something by acting out. And oftentimes it's because they're not, I'm going to use the word armed with the social skills and the vocabulary that they need to kind of share what they're trying to get. And you might remember a couple of chats ago, I talked about people asking about toddlers biting. Well, that is a developmentally appropriate, certainly not a desired behavior, but it is developmentally appropriate because toddlers don't have the vocabulary. So we're going to do a little exercise around building emotional vocabulary. It's really about affirmations and listening to the words that some people are using as they're giving some loving messages to some other people. And just thinking about the importance of the fact that we are our children's first and most important teachers. And so be thinking about some ways that we can help, as you're watching this, that we can help children to build their social and emotional vocabulary. All right. So we're not going to watch this. We're going to watch this. All right, and Glenda, I'll look to you for a thumbs up on sound again.
A week ago, we challenged the people on our email list to call up their parents and tell them how much they mean to them.
We did this because most people our age don't really appreciate the people that do the most for them. So, we'll see how their parents react.
Mommy, it's me.
Yeah, yeah.
I just wanted to let you know that I love you. And
So
I love you. And
then what do you want to ask for me?
no, I'm not gonna ask for anything. Mommy!
So, what's my surprise?
Just calling to say I love you and I appreciate everything you do for me.
Oh, I love you too, baby.
I feel like the parents just think the kids are trying to get out of trouble for something.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to tell you something.
What?
I love you very, very much, and I just wanted to say that I appreciate you for everything that you do.
Why? What's wrong? What's happened to you?
Nothing, I just wanted to tell you, like, I don't tell you this enough, and I don't know, I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry.
Mom, I love you. Love you.
Love you.
I just wanted to tell you that I really appreciate you. I love you. I love you so much.
I think you're the first one telling me like this.
I'm the first one telling you this.
Yeah.
He literally just said that she was the first one that's ever told him something like this.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Hi, Mom. Is Dad there with you?
Yeah.
I wanted to call and let you guys know that I love you. And I miss you.
Okay?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm okay.
Oye, nada más quería hablarte para agradecerte y así. Por todo, digo, por lo que has hecho.
Por eso que estoy para ustedes. Nada más.
Don't question why I'm ringing you, okay? I realized that I don't say it as much as I should. I really appreciate what you do for me and Aaron and Callum, and I just wanted to say that because I haven't said it as much as I should.
Hello.
Mom,
Yes.
I love you.
I love you too, my dear.
You know what's really cool is that a lot of these people seem genuinely happy.
Yeah, this is actually turning out to be really sweet.
Hello.
Mom?
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say, I don't think I say this too much, but thank you so much for, everything.
Aww.
And because with my birthday being done, you've just done a lot, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. That's a really nice call. I appreciate that. It really made me feel good. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to tell you that I love you, and you're the most amazing person in the world.
Bear,
What?
I love you too.
Hello?
Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something really fast?
Yeah. Let me walk out here a second. Okay.
I just want you to know that I love you.
I love you too, sweet pea.
And I know I don't acted like it lately, but I really want you to know that I love you.
I love you too, sis. I'm always here for you, right?
Yeah.
Dang. You can tell she actually meant what she said. That's awesome.
Yeah, guys, like, this is why we did this video. Like, you have no idea what a simple phone call can mean to somebody.
Well, tell me what you think about that video.
So now I'm crying.
We're all crying now.
Oh, good grief.
I know
Say what.
For me, a second. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
For me, I feel like it's the social thing that it's so odd for kids to do that for their parents, because sometimes, like, maybe the parents are always saying it and stuff like that, or doing stuff, and a lot of things just go unappreciated. But taking that time out, stop and calling your parents and stuff like that, and people that do so much, but they do it because they love you unconditionally. I can say, like, for my kids, no matter what, my kids can love me, they can hate me, whatever it is, but I'm still going to love them unconditionally. So when someone that you love into that capacity turns around and says, hey, they love you as well, that's where I believe all those emotional hits are happening. Because we've always had times where kids are either they love us or sometimes they don't like us because, hey, you know what, you did something wrong, you're grounded, or, you're in timeout, blah, blah, blah. They always see the negative things. Whenever anyone has situations in their relationship with anyone or anything, most times people, what they dwell on are the emotional spikes. And usually those emotional spikes are in things of bad cases. But we take for granted the times in between of what that person has done, either really, really good or show that emotional support throughout, different scenarios. It's one of the things that I know when my daughter, when she said that something like that to me, I was like, how some of the parents were like, hey, what's wrong? Because it's not the norm. What'd you do? What will happen? Is everything okay? Like you start doing that because you got put off guard so much because you're always focusing on how much love you have for that person, and so when they redirect that love back to you, it hits, and it's an incredible feeling. But yeah, that's how I feel from it.
That's awesome. Who else would like to share their reaction?
I would agree with Blake. It's sad that I think that so many of our first reactions would be, what's wrong? What, do you need to tell me something? Did you do something? So it really makes me think, I think with kids, it can be different because they're kids, they can be a little bit more self-centered, but how often are we praising people so that it's not the norm? Like, what are we doing? So if you give me praise so that I just say, well, gosh, thank you. But most of the time, if I get praise, I'll deflect, like, oh, it was nothing. It wasn't a big deal. Someone helped me with it. So just kind of thinking about what can I do to set kids up better to receive that? And how can I receive it better too?
I think that's so strong, Kimberly, of a point, because a great social skill that we have to model for kids is that part of being graceful is being able to accept appropriate compliments and accept credit when it's due to us. Who else would like to share their reaction to that?
Well, I had to back up a little bit so you couldn't see the tear running down my face. I'll tell you that. I mean, like, I think Kimberly made a good point. I don't even know how you follow up with that. Like, that was amazing point that you brought up was, why is that not the norm? Why is it not the norm for us to be giving these praises to people and compliments, or just calling someone to say, hey, I appreciate what you do for me. Just something simple, or hey, I really love that you're there for me. Like that can make such a huge difference in someone's life. We all don't really know what everyone is dealing with. And, your phone call just to say, hey, I appreciate you can really just change the trajectory of what, their life at that point. And I think modeling that for the children that we work with, the children in our home, is something that I think I would like to take away from tonight and really commit to doing more of. Because why isn't that the norm?
Because we know connections matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to challenge you guys a little bit here around your own social emotional vocabulary. And I'm going to ask you to think of just one sentence that you would like to tell every child in the world. So we're going to take a minute to think of a sentence, and then I'm going to ask you to share it. And if you're not comfortable sharing that sentence, you can private message me in the chat and I can read the sentence for you. Because I think it's important for us to hear the way that we all talk to children, and a message that we might be able to share, and it can help us to be centered in our emotions and also think about, as Courtney kind of pointed out, what will we do moving from here to change the way we're helping children build their emotional vocabulary. So I'm going to put 60 seconds on my timer to give you one to think of your sentence. Blake, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want, before we kind of go into that, for Courtney, you're asking why in today's society that we don't do that. I feel like it's a society norm, or not it's a society norm to kind of stray away from the honor. Honor thy parents is one of those things that, like, hey, what we're supposed to be doing, right? I feel like today's generation, think about the 1930s, like how close they were about with their family, but how lately it's more and more as these generations keep going longer and longer, they're kind of getting away from the honor. So why don't we do that? I guess it's because some people might think that's just kind of weird. Obviously, we all saw those videos, those testimonies. Like that was awesome to see. Like, hey, yeah, that's right. That's something I should be doing. Do the good deed and pay it forward. You never know where that fruit might grow up to be an amazing tree and bloom somewhere, but at least you did that good deed. Some people are so in today's society are looking to do a good deed, yes, but either they're trying to record it for their own satisfaction or things like that. I feel like that's why today's society is a little bit harder with understanding that, and we should be doing that. But I feel that's the reason why today's society is kind of going down that, because we're not emphasizing, hey, what does honoring mean and why is that so important? I feel like if you ask a lot of people, if they say like, hey, what's your 5 most important things? Honor wouldn't be one of them. And it's just, but that's not how it was. Since hundreds of years ago, that was a huge thing, is your family name, your honor to your family. If you go to Japan, it's still 100% there. Maybe it's a culture, not just society. Culture is huge over there about honoring. They don't want to do anything to dishonor their family. So I don't know. I just thought about that.
I think those are powerful points, Blake, and I appreciate you sharing those. So I'm going to hit start on the timer. If you think of your sentence in less than a minute, then just do some deep breathing while we're waiting for everybody. And when we come back, we'll all share our sentences. Here we go. Boy, and then it goes fast, doesn't it? Does anybody want to be the first person to share their sentence? Or I certainly can if nobody wants to.
I have no problem. My sentence would be, no matter what, it would be, God always loved you, and you are important. Never forget it. I don't know if that's more than one sentence or not. Some run-on sentences, but the statement, I guess.
That's all right. Those are awesome thoughts to share with kids. Who wants to?
Joe, I got to get going, man. I do appreciate it, everyone. Thank you guys for letting me have that time.
All right. Thank you, Blake, and enjoy your time at church this evening.
Yep. Bye.
Bye-bye. You're unmuted. Were you ready to go next?
Yeah, so Ivy sent me hers because she's back at the office. I want you to know that you're important. Your feelings are important. And I never want you to feel like your voice does not matter or your feelings don't matter. And mine was very simple. You are awesome. That's one of my favorite ones. You know, when somebody does something, it's just, that is awesome, or you are awesome, or so. But hers was much more deep than mine was.
I think they're both beautiful. They're both beautiful sentences. Kimberly, are you ready to go?
Yeah, so our daughter has really bad anxiety. And so it made me, when she went through a lot of counseling, and we had to come up with kind of a mantra as a family. So that's kind of what stood out to me. But we would always say to her, you are safe and loved. And she would say back, I am safe and loved. I am safe and loved, until she could calm down. So that just came to me first, just I think because it seemed to really help her. So that would be my sentence.
I love it. You are safe and loved. That's wonderful. Okay, Courtney.
So I didn't come up with this on my own. This is something I actually heard one of the pre-K teachers that I worked with like 2 years ago. I heard her say it when a child was having a moment, not one of his best moments, but he was having some strong emotions. And she said to him, your words have power. And I was like, oh, gosh, it cut me to the core. I was like, that is amazing. And, when she said, your words have power, my words have power, so tell me how you're feeling, and she just kind of went from there. So I think empowering children to let them know that, hey, your words have power, it kind of goes off of what Blake said, what you said, Kimberly, of, you're safe, you're loved, and you can say how you're feeling. So I still like could cry listening to her say those words to him. I was like, oh gosh, yes, he does.
I wrote that down, Courtney, and my sentence was, you are enough just the way you are. And I wish that I could tell that to every kid in the world, I think. So I can't believe that we are at the end of our Back Porch Chat series, and I want to go through just a couple things. You guys know we have our Triple P online resource, and that it is a program that parents can sign up for, or you can refer others to, that helps parents find strategies that fit their family. And it's available at no cost, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and people can work at their own pace. You can connect at Triple P's website that you see here, and also at our website. I do like to remind people, and you see I put the pink arrow on the screen here. It does ask you to choose between 2 age groups. And sometimes when people are registering, this is where they kind of get caught up, is that they don't see these 2 bars at the bottom. So you need to choose either toddlers to tweens or preteens to teens, or you can choose both, but you'll have to register separately for those. And of course, I would like to encourage people to access our professional development opportunities. And you can do that by going to our website, oneplaceonslow.org, clicking on the For Parents and Early Educators and the training info and registration. Because while our training is inclusive of early childhood educators, it is not exclusive to early childhood educators. It's meant for anyone who's interested in the community in helping children. I will send you our 10 facts flyer again so that you have it and can give it to as many people as you're able to connect them with our resources. And I'll give you my phone numbers and email address again. I'm happy to stay on and continue the conversation with anybody that would like to, but I want to honor everybody's time and thank you so much again for being here. So I am going to stop sharing and stop recording, but like I said, I'm happy to stay on and chat as long as anybody would like to, and anybody has anything else left to share, feel free to unmute.